Hey everyone, welcome to Automating with Fuga Part 1. I'm Sabrina, a flow designer here at Fuga. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you a way to use a flow to import data into a student ID card, and then how to automatically change a character style on the card based on the imported data. This tutorial will introduce you to spreadsheets, tags, the load data action, and the if action. For this tutorial, I'm assuming you have a fair knowledge of InDesign, and that you've watched our Creating Your First Fuga Flow tutorial. I recommend watching this tutorial all the way through, then use the reference I have under the video when you actually do it yourself. Here's the project file you'll be starting with today, which you can download from below the video. This is the final document I'll be showing you how to make, which has the text in this table tagged, the text in this certification frame tagged, and this graphic frame tagged. Here's the final flow, which loads data from one row of a spreadsheet and applies a character style to the text in this tag if the frame is overset. Here I'll play the flow with my load data action set to import the first row of data from the CSV. As you can see, everything's been loaded, and the text in this tag stays on its character style since the frame isn't overset. Here I'll change the load data action to import data from the second row of the CSV and play the flow again. As you can see, the character style changed in this tag since the text frame was overset. Okay, so now that you see the final document, I'll show you how to create this yourself, and generally how everything's working. Here I have the original project folder from the link under the video. In this folder I have all my files for the project. Here's the InDesign document, here's the images folder, and here's our spreadsheet. The file extension for the spreadsheet is CSV, which stands for comma-separated values, but I could have also used an Excel file. You can open and export spreadsheets in CSV or Excel format from any spreadsheet editor, like Excel, Numbers, or OpenOffice, and you can also export to them from most databases. Let's go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheet. I'll just press OK here to leave everything on its default. If you get a similar panel, just do the same. Okay, so if you're not familiar with spreadsheets, they're sort of like huge tables, which let you organize large amounts of information. This is a spreadsheet I made for storing the names and information for each student at our pretend Fuga University. There's a column for each student's name, ID, date of birth, the card expiration date, their Fuga certification level, and the file name for their photo. As you can see, this top row has each name for the column. Each column in the spreadsheet relates to something in this document. The data from the name, ID, date of birth, and expiration date columns of the spreadsheet are going to replace the text in this column of the table here. The certification column is going to replace the text in the bottom part of this badge, and the file name in the photo column is for the student's photo, which will go into this frame here. Now, to tell Fuga where to put everything, I'm going to use XML tags. Tags are simply a way to label text or objects in InDesign. Okay, so before I start tagging, I'm going to go to View, Structure, and make sure that this says Hide Tagged Markers and Hide Tagged Frames, meaning that the structure is currently shown. If they say show instead of hide, just click them to change it. Making sure that these are shown makes it easier for us to be sure that we're tagging everything correctly. Now, to get started tagging, I'll open up my Tags panel by going to Windows, Utilities, Tags. There are a couple of tags here by default, but don't worry about them because they don't really matter for our purposes. Now, for each column, I'm going to create a tag with an identical name. These matches have to be case sensitive, so Fuga automatically recognizes which column should be loaded into which tag. In general, it doesn't matter how the columns in the spreadsheet are ordered or what they're named, as long as the tags match the column names exactly. Now that I'm done creating the tags, I'll highlight each piece of text and click on its corresponding tag name to apply it. Once I tag a piece of text, the brackets in the color of the tag appear around it, and the whole frame becomes tagged in a different color, which simply means that the frame has a tag inside it. I can see exactly what tags are applied to what text by clicking inside the tag text. Don't worry that when you click outside the tag in a frame, it says cell or story. This is just something InDesign does. Now I'll set up my InDesign workspace for flow design by going to Windows and selecting the Fuga Hanger panel and the Fuga Workshop panel. I'll create a new flow in the Fuga hanger, and I'll double-click it and name it Data Build, but you can name it whatever you want. Now I'll go to the Fuga Workshop panel, click the Object category, and select the Select action. I'll use this action to select all the objects in the document by leaving everything on their default values and leaving the text fields blank. If you want to know more about this action later, check out the topic article on selection and object naming. I'll press the play button to check that the select action's working. As you can see, everything's selected, so it's working. Now I'll go back to the flow in the Fuga Workshop panel, and I'll select the select action to insert an action underneath it. Now I'll go to the Data Actions category and select the Load Data action. Here I want to tell Fuga to load the first row of data from my data CSV file into XML tags. In this field, I'll put data.csv with quotes around it. Data.csv needs quotes because it's a string. A string is another word for normal text. Anything that's not a number, a date, or a variable is a string. A single letter is a string, a word is a string, a whole page of text can be a string. Object names, file names, character style names, column names, and the names of XML tags are all considered strings. The reason why strings need quotes will hopefully become clear when we start talking about variables and expressions in another tutorial. But for now, the main thing you need to know about strings are that they're everything besides numbers, dates, and variables, and that they always need quotes. Okay, so from this menu, I'll select Relative to Current Document. This tells Fuga to search for our data.csv file in the same folder as the InDesign document we're currently working on. Now, in the row number field, I'll leave this on 1, and for load into, I'll leave this on XML tags. This tells Fuga to load the first row of data from the spreadsheet into XML tags. Now I'll click on the Image tab. Here from the fitting options, I'll select Fit Content Proportionally. In this drop-down menu, I'll scroll up and select Relative to Current Document, and I'll check this Search Subfolders checkbox. This tells Fuga to check for image files that are inside folders that are inside the same folder as the InDesign document we're working on. Okay, so now I'll save the document and press the play button to make sure that the flow is working. The text in the left column of this table was updated, the text in the Fuga certification tag was updated, and the image was loaded into this column. If you have any problems at this point, check your tag names, make sure that everything is tagged correctly, and just generally make sure that your document and flow look the same as mine. Also make sure that you have errors, warnings, and info turned on. To check that they're on, go to the panel menu at the top right-hand corner of the workshop and select Preferences. Click the Exceptions tab, and make sure that the alert checkboxes for errors and warnings are turned on. You can select this checkbox for info as well, but sometimes that's a little bit more than you need. After you're done, press OK. Now, Fuga will let you know when you try to perform actions whose parameters might not have been filled out correctly. If that still doesn't help, be sure to check out the troubleshooting section under this video. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and revert the file. Okay, so now I'll try this flow out again, but with the next row. I'll go back to the Load Data action, and I'll put 2 in for the row number. Now, I'm saving the file and pressing play. This time, the data from the second row of the spreadsheet was loaded. This time, however, notice the text in the Fuga certification text frame is overset. Here I'll open up my Character Styles panel, and I'll change the style to Cert Style 2. Now, instead of doing this manually each time the frame is overset, I'll tell Fuga to change it automatically. Okay, so before I make any changes to the flow, I'll go ahead and revert the file again. To check if the frame with the text for the Fuga certification badge is overset, I'll tell Fuga that if any object in this selection is overset, then change the character style in the tag. To do this, first I'll select the Load Data action from the flow to insert an action underneath it. Then I'll select the Flow Actions category, and I'll select the If action. From the drop-down menu at the top, I'll select Advanced Condition, and from this drop-down menu, I'll scroll down to the bottom and select Selection is Overset. This tells the flow that if this selection is overset, then do something. To tell the flow what that something is to do, first I'll select the Insert Action Here action. Then I'll go to the Text Actions category and select the Apply Character Style action. For style name, I'll type in Cert Style 2 with quotation marks around it, and for Apply To, I'll select XML tag and type in the tag name Cert. This tells Fuga to apply the style name Cert Style 2 to the text inside XML tag Cert. Whenever you're filling out an action's parameters, double check that you remember to put quotes around the strings, since they're really easy to forget. Now, I'll save and then I'll step through the flow. The load data action is loading the data from the second row of the CSV, including this beginner text, which is causing an overset. Now Fuga will check and see that the frame is overset, and now it'll apply the character style. Now that you can see that it's working, I'll go ahead and revert the file again. And now I'll test it out with row 1. As you can see, the expert text was loaded, but the character style didn't change since the frame wasn't overset. There's a problem here though, which didn't matter since I remembered to save and revert the file at the right points, but if I hadn't, it would have come up. And I need to fix it anyhow for the next tutorial, so I'll just go ahead and show it to you now. Okay, so if I switch my row number in the load data action back to row 2 and play the flow again, the character style is changing like it's supposed to. Now if I go back and change it to row 1 and play the flow, the character style is staying on the smaller one. When we were reverting the file, this wasn't a problem because it was switching back to the larger character style when I reverted, but now it's changing to the smaller style, and then nothing's making it change back to the larger one. So to fix this, first I'll revert the file. Now I'll select my Apply Character Style action and Command drag it to duplicate it. If you were on a PC, you would have pressed Control and dragged. Now I'll click my new action and I'll change this to Cert Style 1. This way the character style will definitely be on the larger one before it tries to switch to the smaller one. Now I'll save the file and play the flow again. Since we are on row 2, the character style is switching. Now if I switch this to row 1, and play it, now it'll stay on the larger style. Okay, there you have it. If you wanted to print this document without watermarks, you go to the Fuga Hanger panel and select the Unlock command. Here you'd fill in your account information, which you can get by registering on the Fuga website. You could also fill in this information in the Preferences panel on this License tab, and then you wouldn't have to fill it in each time you unlocked. I'd recommend though that you actually wait to use this flow, since in the next tutorial I'll be showing you how to export all your cards at once and for less money. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. I know it was a bit long, but hopefully you stayed with me. Be sure to actually create this flow on your own after you finish watching, and remember to use the reference for this video that I have on the website. Thanks for watching.